Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are putting on our detective hats to solve a really fascinating aquatic mystery, straight from a fish keeper's journal. Honestly, it's a classic case of human intention versus animal instinct. We're looking at what actually happens when the perfect habitat we design completely misses the mark for the creatures living inside it.
Okay, let's just dive right into a journal entry from an aquarist named Ang. Now, Ang spent hours setting up what they thought was absolutely the perfect breeding ground for their fish, only to find these custom-made homes completely ignored. And it begs a simple, but let's be real, incredibly frustrating question. Why are these artificial caves completely empty? It's a puzzle anyone who keeps animals will immediately recognize. The habitat is right there, but the animals, they just flat out refuse to use it.
You know, Ang's first thought was actually totally logical. The journal says, while I've been preparing different artificial caves to induce breeding among my dwarf cichlids, it seems using small terracotta pots is the wrong strategy. Now, placing little terracotta pots at the back of a tank is a super common go-to strategy in the hobby. It's supposed to provide a safe, enclosed space and basically automatically induce breeding. But as Ang quickly found out, these fish clearly had other plans. And this right here perfectly captures our core mystery. On one hand, you've got the human-intended environment, these carefully placed terracotta pots set up as VIP breeding caves. But on the other hand, you have the fish's actual preference, which was completely bypassing those pots to just squeeze behind the coral at the very back of the tank. They essentially handed a massive eviction notice to their human-designed setup. It's literally like a stubborn client completely rejecting an interior designer's hard work. So what's really going on here? What environmental clues can we decode? What is actually driving these fish to just abandon their custom-made homes? To answer this, we really have to stop looking into the glass as human designers and try to look out from the perspective of the fish.
Well, Ang eventually figured it out through some really patient observation. The fish were, quote, staying away from the harsh LED lighting in the middle and front of the tank. Think about that. To us, it's just a nice light, but to them, that bright LED acts almost like a physical force field, driving them deep into the shadows of the coral. The terracotta pots might be amazing caves, sure, but if the front lawn is bathed in blinding, stressful light, nobody is moving in.
Before we get into solving this lighting issue, let's formally meet the stars of our mystery, Kribensis Cichlids, or pelvicachromis-pulcher for the science buffs out there. Ang's journal notes that these specific dwarf cichlids were a recent addition, and it's their unique, raw instincts that are putting this existing tank design to the ultimate test.
Now, this part is wild. The dramatic behavioral shift Ang documented is just fascinating. In the bustling, super crowded environment of the local fish store, these cichlids were totally confident and outgoing. But the exact moment they were transferred to the home aquarium, complete with those harsh LEDs we just talked about, their confidence totally tanked. They became entirely different, highly reserved fish.
So this observation leaves us with a brand new challenge. If the artificial terracotta pots are a total bust and the lighting is making them hide all day, how do we coax them out? We need to figure out a way to encourage natural, relaxed behavior so they actually feel secure enough to call this tank home. Instead of, just moving rocks around or dimming the lights, Ang proposes this fascinating psychological solution. The journal reads, perhaps we should expose them to the opposite tank so the fishes from other tanks can be the dither fishes. Ang is actually looking way past the physical environment here and turning to a behavioral strategy involving other living creatures.
If you aren't familiar with the term, dither fishes are essentially confident, highly active fish that aquarists use specifically to influence a shy or reserved species. By seeing other fish swimming around carelessly in the open water, it acts as a signal to the anxious kribensis that, hey, there are no predators around, it's safe. It's essentially using peer pressure for good to gently coax them out of their hiding spots.
And this gives us such a brilliant biology-based strategy. Step 1, observe those reserved behaviors and pinpoint the stressor. Step 2, expose them to a neighboring tank. And step 3, utilize those dither fishes to positively influence their behavior. It's a massive pivot, right? Going from trying to force an artificial layout to actually utilizing natural psychology.
To wrap up this explainer, it is so clear that tailoring an aquatic environment is just a game of constant, ongoing observation. The human-approved terracotta pots completely failed. The fish favored a natural coral refuge over harsh lighting every single time, and ultimately, it was the social cue of dither fish, not some new piece of decor, that offered a real solution.
As Ang wisely noted in the journal, there is always more adjustment needed. Keeping animals is a constant, evolving dialogue between you and them.
Which leaves us with a final thought today: what subtle environmental factors might be silently affecting the behavior of your own pets? Whether it's a fish tank, a terrarium, or even just where a dog bed sits in your living room, a simple change in lighting or a new neighbor can entirely rewrite an animal's world. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and remember to keep observing the worlds you build for the animals around you.